and he'll be updating us as we progress. Well, let's get back into some of the content we had lined up for you. Well, we want to now cross over live to Perth in Australia, where we're joined by Steve Courier, who is the chairman of the Mineral Rights Board, and coming to us literally from the hub, where Australia is one of the leading countries in mining. But I'd like to get your quick reactions, Mr. Courier, on the current developments in the political space before we talk more about mining.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Agina. We are watching very keenly and praying that we'll have a very peaceful elections, because this is quite telling for 2022. And 2022, we like to really have a very peaceful transition to the new government. So as I was watching what's happening in Matu, I hope that they can do it, protest in a civil way, and sort it out as they can. And
Mr. Courier, of course, these developments, like many would argue, are a telltale sign, perhaps, of what to expect as we go into the referendum and later on, perhaps, the elections in 2022.
Absolutely, Mr. Agina. I think BBI, we see there's might be not much of, there's no opposition to it, but I think it's more critical for when you come 2022 to see a peaceful transition is very critical for the country.
Okay, let's shift gears now, and with the developments around the mining sector, there are plans to review the Mining Act. How will this change the current situation, especially for small miners, and of course ensuring the mineral rights for Kenyans?
Yes, the transformation in two ways. One, for small-scale miners is very critical. The Act actually categorizes that a small-scale miner or artisanal miner can only use a shovel and a crude ore system. One of the things we like is to ensure that our artisanal miners are using the modern technology. So we want to change the Act in that aspect to ensure it's reflective of the time. On the other hand, if you look, the Act also does not allow large licenses and small-scale miners to operate concurrently. We have seen example in places like Zimbabwe where the both license can work very well. So this is another area we would like to have a look, especially in the places like Kakamega and part of Kilifi in Mombasa. And on the large-scale miners, we have a lot of challenges when it comes to the land consent. For instance, for now, if you're prospecting for mining, you have to get a land consent to each individual owner. And in densely populated areas, like let's say Migori, you have to talk to every one person, for instance, if 500 people. We would like to see some transition in the Act where you can do a town hall meeting and be able to agree with everybody about the way forward. As you know, getting 200 people together is not an easy thing. So that's some areas we want to check.
And Courier, looking at the reforms that you're talking about, how soon will this happen?
We have already started with the Mineral Rights Board. We have already put forward the issues of physical regime to ensure that it actually cover the artisanal to the large-scale miner, and also to ensure government take what belongs to the government, as well as ensuring that the royalty is distributed to the county. The other thing is also the geodata, which as you know, we are doing a geo survey around the country. So after getting this information, we should be able to do what is called ground truthing and be able to have a concrete and variable of whole Kenya. And this includes the sea. The last and not least is that regulatory regime is very critical to ensure that there is security of tenure, that any investors of any person, there is no political interference in their mining process once they start mining. So those are a major reform, and in fact, we call that three reg tools, which is geology, regulatory regime, and physical regime as the canary of mining, which means that most mining companies look at those things before they even travel to those countries. Of course, political stability is important.
All right. And in closing, perhaps talk to us about once the Mining Act is, of course, reviewed, as you did mention, what size does the ministry look forward towards boosting the mining sector? What's the potential of this industry?
We think, and I see from where I sit, that mining is a game changer. It has not been reflected a lot in Treasury, but if you look, even during COVID, mining remained constant. We believe that you cannot have Big Four agenda without mining, because everything in that Big Four agenda, you have to involve in mining. Our prediction and going forward, we think that the mining industry can achieve about 12% of GDP. Most of people have been saying that it's 10%, but we can clearly see 12%, and I can quickly tell you why. One is that we've got a 0.6 or 1% already being contributed by base resources. We also have some of the minerals which are now being operated by Ministry of Industrialization that we'd like them to be brought back to mining, which is sand and aggregate, which is your kokoto and quarry. So that should be come back to the mining, and that also contribute to almost 4%. So now you see what will be left is $6.6 billion to present to the GDP. And already we have one mine coming to Kakamega called Shanta Gold. So we have projected that we only need four active mining. So we already have one. We also want to see Kirima Pesa come to fruition, and as well as Karibe mining to return back to operation. So this is not very difficult, and this is without talking about our gemstone and gold that is collected by artisanal miners around the country, which is quite significant, especially at this current rate, where gold price is at 8 years high.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Steve Kuria, for your insights. Quite interesting to see the mining sector could be able to transform the country. Of course, this is an area of interest for not only participants in the mining sector, but as well as various stakeholders in the revenue authority in the country. All right, let's now still stay with matters dealing with the business landscape, and I'm now joined by Mary Mudhoni, who is the chairperson of Women in Business and also an entrepreneur here in Kenya. Well,